jumps and he's in!
I want to win a championship. Number one, you want to always build to win a championship. But if we're doing it right, and the sustainability for what this league is going to be, it is opportunity and the opportunity to play in the NFL.
I think it's the best thing the league can do. It's the best advertising the league could have. And even within the players' ranks, players need to see that.
Abram Smith makes a man look silly. Another huge run, and he's in the end zone.
And I had so many players in college that didn't get that extra look because there was not a league to help them get another chance and fulfill their dreams.
Trent Harris with the sack.
Over the course of these weeks that we've played games, there's been a lot of guys from every team that have shown and displayed that they really deserve an opportunity.
Danucci, end zone. He's in.
What is up, XFL Nation? Welcome to another edition of the OG XFL Week in Review, the longest-running XFL podcast of all time. I am your host, Mark Perry, editor of XFL News Hub, your all-football media guru. We are on episode 201. Thanks for being part of the show. And remember, if you like football, then like and subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell to get alerted. Let's get to 30 likes, please, shall we? So we've got a jam-packed show. Why? Because this weekend is the XFL Championship. Oh my goodness, it is finally here. Can you believe it? We've been covering the XFL since 2018, and now we finally have a championship game. Your DC Defenders, America's team, going up against Bob Stoops, Luis Perez, and the Arlington Renegades. It's going to be a fantastic matchup. Why? Just remember the last game, they were tied and went into overtime. How awesome would that be if the championship came down to the overtime? I would rather just see the DC Defenders blow them out, but still an overtime game would be awesome. And I really want a close game just for the sake of the XFL. So we talked to ESPN's Tom Hart, go over the championship game, kind of in his background, and a lot of good insight from Tom Hart. Plus, we have some off-season XFL news that just came out this week. There's been some awards, but really the off-season news, you want to stick around for that. So we've got the news, we've got all that, and so much more. Plus, we're going to preview, of course, the game. We're hearing from players and coaches. We've got a jam-packed show. So, my friends, without further ado, let's get into the week, the championship week that is the XFL. All right, we're here with Tom Hart. Tom, from ESPN, appreciate you coming on the program.
Mark, thanks for having me.
So every guest I always have to ask the pinnacle question is, give us your superhero origin story. How did you get from high school kid to now calling, all different kinds of sports with ESPN, including the XFL?
How long is your podcast? I mean, it could take a while to get there. The short story is, you know what? Maybe the pictures can tell the story. See what I got back here. Yeah. All right. This is good. My first job out of school after an internship was with the Winston-Salem Warthogs, minor league baseball team. Then I ended up with the Tennessee Smokies, got some of their gear back there. And then the first college baseball game I called was a Tennessee game. Anyway, kind of bounced around a little bit, but got my start in minor league baseball on the radio. And then got introduced on the television side at a variety of places, CBS Sports Network to Big Ten Network to ESPN. And here we are. That's as short a version as I can tell with props.
Gotcha. And then, of course, the little breaking news here is that you will be calling the XFL Championship game this Saturday. Is that correct? Your team?
Yeah, it's our regular crew. And I love the folks that I work with. Greg McElroy is in the booth. Cole Kublik and Katie George down on the sideline. We've been together since day one of this version of the XFL. Katie was new to the XFL this year, but Greg, Cole, and I all worked the previous iteration in 20. So that knowledge base, kind of knowing how the production works and what to expect and how we use the audio, which I know you're certainly familiar with, that was already in our background. So it's been a seamless transition.
So, well, all right, we'll go back into the 2020 season. So everything shut down. When you heard that The Rock and Dany Garcia purchased the XFL, what was your reaction to that? And it was returning for a third time.
Well, I was excited. I don't want to say that I expected it, but as soon as it shut down, and then Vince McMahon eventually put it up for sale, I was following it from the jump and trying to figure out, like, who's going to buy this and how soon could it come back? Like, what's the turnaround time? So I always expected it to come back, to be honest with you, because I viewed it as a fantastic success in 20. And if it wasn't for the pandemic, I would assume McMahon wouldn't have sold it or wouldn't have been in a position to sell. But I thought it was going great. I love the markets we're in. I love the production values that ESPN and ABC brought to it then. And I thought it had great promise in a variety of different ways, both on the football side and the television production side.
Yeah. So now that you're in, we're kind of coming to the end of the 2023 season. What are some of your standout moments? Which teams or players like really impressed you this season?
Yeah, I start with Anthony Beck. I mean, we showed this graphic a couple times during the season, but here he is coaching against established head coaches, whether that's Bob Stoops, who has a national championship under his belt, or Wade Phillips, who's been in the NFL forever, Greg Williams on the defensive side, former NFL head coach. And Anthony's essentially brand new to coaching, certainly being a head coach. I mean, his resume, the back of his baseball card, so to speak, pales in comparison from an experience standpoint to a lot of these guys he was coaching against. And I thought he did a masterful job. It just so happened that week one of the season, we opened in Arlington on a Saturday. St. Louis, I think, was in San Antonio or Houston. They were in a Texas city on Sunday. So when we were at the hotel Friday night, we were staying in the same hotel as the Battlehawks, and ran into Anthony that night and just talked to him about his team and spent a lot of time with them. And I'd worked with them prior at ESPN for one of our bowl games years ago. And I was just so impressed with the grasp that he had on the communication aspect of coaching and leading a team. And I thought they had a tremendous year, obviously. The fan base at St. Louis blew me away once again. You know, I knew the momentum that they had in 20, and so much of that storyline was derived from proving the NFL and Stan Kroenke wrong. And that was, not to get too deep into the weeds, but that was before the lawsuit against Kroenke ended up being settled, and the city got all this money from the Rams move to Los Angeles, but the passion didn't die down. And I was kind of curious where that would come from. And this year, not to be too long-winded, in fact, for the championship game, I got my first trip to Audi Field in DC. I was bummed I didn't get there in 20. I was bummed we didn't get there during the regular season. And my expectations were really high, and that fan base certainly lived up to it. So just those are kind of some of the off the field storylines. I think there's hundreds of on-field storylines and high water moments because these players, created another opportunity, and they were really impressive over the course of the season. You can pick and choose, a half dozen from every team.
Yeah. I mean, especially for Anthony Beck, not only was he a first-time head coach, but he was in the biggest market in the XFL. I mean, the most important. I mean, that kind of drove the ticket sales for the season. So no doubt about that. So as far as the differences between the NFL and the XFL when it comes to the rules, I mean, overall, how did you think the rules played out for the 2023 season?
I thought they went really well. The origination of a lot of these rules goes back to the whatever we want to call it, 2.0. I don't know how properly to reference it, but the 20 season. And I got to tell you, like, being involved on the front end of everybody who was part of the league in 20 is these weren't rules that somebody just threw a dart against the wall and said, hey, this might work. The kickoff coverage especially was very well thought out. They investigated all of the stats that came with the average return, the average yard line, obviously the injury numbers that we're aware of, which drove the kickoff coverage rule to keep people from flying down the field at 100 miles an hour. The conversions after point afters, very, very well researched in terms of, how to create competitiveness, but also adding plays to the game instead of just kicking. So I think all of them went really, really well. Apologize, something is.
It's okay.
Okay, there you are. Sorry. I know. I thought all the rules went very well over the course of this season. I don't know any that need changing or tweaking. Maybe the tiebreaker needs just a little bit of tweaking from being able to easily comprehend and share that. I know the league office had a great idea, and they had a great feel for it. But as a broadcaster, I think it became a little bit complicated and hard to share at times. All well-intentioned, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to have points for and points against when teams run different tempos, because it can favor an up-tempo or a slower tempo team based on possession. So they wanted to do it versus ranking, and that just got a little complicated at the end, which I think you're going to have in a 10-week season, right? You're going to have, at some point, the standings are going to be bunched up, whether that's, within a division, first, second, third, somebody's going to be close to the others.
One of the interesting things about the rules was the coaches' challenge and how they would kind of challenge it after. I mean, they were not used to that kind of coaches' challenge and behind the scenes stuff, because Dean Blandino could see the call and he knew that it wasn't whatever, and then they would challenge it and he'd already just looked at it. Like there was some confusion, at least with the coaches. I mean, what did you think about the instant replay and Dean Blandino in the booth, as far as could that impact, I mean, the NFL looking at something doing like that?
100%. I love the rule, by the way. I love the rule. Mostly I love it because, of course, we have all the head coaches, Mike, and they start to lose their mind and they're yelling at the side judge. Well, okay, is it bark or bite, right? You want to get in that guy's ear or that woman's ear. Are you doing it just to influence the next call, or are you doing it because you believe that they really missed the call? Because if you truly believe they missed the call, then challenge it.
Yeah.
It's simple. Put your money where your mouth is, right? So I love that aspect of it. Dean is so incredibly efficient at his job. He's great at it anyway, but he's also very efficient, so much so that a lot of times the television coverage, we can't get to him quick enough. Like, he's already looked at it. The play-ins, he's done. He and the guys in there have already filtered through it, and they've looked and they've made a decision, and there's something there or not there. I love the transparency of that entire process. And I think any league would be wise to adopt it. Mark, I'll add, the challenge is Dean's a superstar. Like, not only does he know the rule book inside and out, and he knows what it's like to be on the field and apply those rules in real time, but he's also very good on television, and he's very good at explaining the rules in a very simple and straightforward manner. If you could clone Dean, then any league could do this for any game, but it was certainly simplified because of the sample size, right? There's only one game at a time. I think there was only one time I'm aware of that games even overlap. One ran long and the other one had already started. So, by the way, I didn't get asked for a vote, but Dean would be my MVP of the league.
Oh, that's true. We didn't even think of adding him to we had the XFL list. We had our list. So yeah, we could have thrown him in the mix. No question about it. So let's talk about the championship game. Key matchups. What should fans be looking for? I mean, these teams have already played each other. I mean, it came down to an overtime game. I was at the game. It was the first time I got to see overtime live. Are we going to see a similar matchup this go around?
I would expect, but the question is, which way are teams going to lean, right? I mean, Luis Perez had arguably two of his best games of the season. One in the championship game and one against DC, where he threw for over 300 yards and was wildly efficient. But at the same time, Arlington has now proven, especially recently, that they can lean on the running game, and they can lean on it a lot more than they did earlier in the season. It's probably a chicken or egg thing, right? I mean, is the run game more effective because Luis is more of a threat in the passing game than the previous three quarterbacks that they started over the course of the season? They're trying to figure out that position and stay healthy. I still think, and I haven't looked at the numbers, and obviously this is something we talk about in the broadcast, I still think DC should be heavily favored. I hope it's an overtime game. I mean, as broadcasters, you want It'd be a thrill, right?
Yeah.
You want as close a game as you can get, and the overtime rules, I think, are fantastic. But if you just look at the all-league team, right? I mean, I think Arlington had one defensive lineman on it, and DC had quarterback, running back, wide receiver, linebacker, secondary, like coach of the year.
Mm-hmm.
They dominated during the course of the season, and it was no fluke. I just think that they're so well built, and they're willing to change their identity based on what they need to do on the offensive side of the ball. They were run heavy, obviously, through the first probably 6 weeks of the season. Then teams started key on the run, and then Ta'amu decided, fine, I'll just go over the top and
Mm-hmm.
putting up crazy numbers passing the ball. And with Greg Williams, what he does from a pressure standpoint, I think it's a very simple but impactful game plan on both sides of the ball for DC.
Yeah. So how do you go now? This is the biggest game of the year. How do you go as a broadcaster? Like, how do you go and prepare for a big game like this? Is it just like any other game, or is there's a little bit more juice to this one?
Oh, there'll definitely be more juice, but I think from a presentation standpoint, and I'm kind of, pulling back the curtain here a little bit, you almost go back to square one because primetime game on ABC, there's going to be a lot of people that get exposed to this game who haven't seen any XFL through the first, 12 calendar weeks or 11 calendar weeks, whatever it is. So you almost have to go back to basics and explain some of the rules, the setup, certainly the kickoff coverage, the coach's challenge. You have to introduce these guys. There's a lot of people who watch the league and watch spring football celebrate and know who Luis Perez is. Very few casual sports fans know who he is and know his background and know his story. And while that story may be told and retold numerous times in spring football leagues, it hasn't been told to an audience that will have the size that we'll have on Saturday night. So it's a bit of a reversion to starting over and reintroducing everybody. But at the same time, we have such a great feel and have developed relationships with both of these teams that I think we can better tell those stories and get into them a lot more efficiently. And Greg Williams is a big part of that story, right? I mean, he's a name that football fans know, but they may not know where he is currently and what his role is. And he's such a big personality and runs such a dynamic defense that whether it's successful or not, his willingness to take risks and send pressure will be a storyline throughout the entire game.
Yeah. Now, is ABC, ESPN planning on doing anything before the game, or is it just that when the game hits and then we're off to the races?
Well, we'll have all coverage from San Antonio. I'm sure there'll be some studio support in terms of leading up to it. I should know this, but I don't know what the rest of the sporting schedule looks like on Saturday on ESPN and ABC specifically.
Yeah,
but we'll have I don't know that. But we'll have a 15-minute pregame show, self-contained. So we'll come on the air, and that, by the way, that gives us time to set the table for this entire matchup and to spend some time with Dwayne Johnson, with Dany Garcia, and to talk about the league and introduce the league to people who may not even know where the league exists and what markets it's in, right? I mean, I can't stress this enough. Like, the audience that's available on ABC is massive, even relative to the sporting audience that finds the game on ESPN, or those who tuned into FX at times during the course of the season. So it's our job to both serve the diehard football fan and the diehard XFL fan that knows all these storylines, and also tell big picture stories and introduce both of these teams in this league to folks who may be tuning in for the very first time.
Yeah, that's interesting that that you don't even think of that, how many more people will actually watch or even hear of the XFL for the first time after we've been through this whole season, and all of us all football nerds have been involved the whole time. So now you've got the season comes to a conclusion. How do you think things are looking? I mean, we've season ticket deposits are going. There's already talk of training camps and things during the off season. What are you looking forward to for the 2024 season?
Yeah, and by the way, speaking of planning. I know that these coaches and these front offices have been planning for next season for weeks now, and that's some of the casual conversations that we've had, like on the field before games or on the coaching meetings that we do. It's just a few weeks ago, we're talking to Hines Ward about what his team may look like next year. And these coaches, I don't want to call it a catch-22 because I feel that their first goal is to do right and by and serve their players, and they want their players to get these opportunities to play in the fall. And I think the latest number is now 40 invitees to camps, which is an amazing number considering the size of the league. But something that they have to deal with in terms of, well, what's our roster going to look like next year? I'd love to get, player A back, but I really want him to have an opportunity to go and see what he can do at the next level. So I'm looking forward to kind of figure out how those rosters shake out. I'm probably just as excited to see, like, who's the next PJ Walker, who's going to get an opportunity in the fall, somebody that we saw, that we followed, that we saw the talent of. And then once again, bigger audience, bigger stage, playing on NFL Sundays in the fall. And I'm really excited about that chance for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, even for if you're an XFL fan and even an NFL fan, it makes the NFL preseason that much more interesting because some of these guys could potentially end up on an XFL roster, in 2024, which is, no one cared about the preseason games before. If you're an XFL fan, you should care about those.
100%. Yeah, you're looking at the second quarterback or third quarterback in some of these scenarios who are. And by the way, it's why the XFL exists. Let's just stick with the quarterback situation. And player 54 is a great way to identify with the players who are right on that line. But as a quarterback, whether it's AJ McCarron or whomever, these are guys that get those reps in the exhibition season, which is now only down to 3 games in the NFL. But then when the real stuff starts, not only not getting game reps, but it's really hard to get practice reps too. And that's something that I didn't understand until spending time with some of the guys in the 2020 version, and learning, like, hey, listen, if you're Ben Roethlisberger's backup and you've been in Pittsburgh for 6 years, this is going back obviously a few years, you're not getting opportunities. He's taking every rep in practice. He's working with his receivers, and you're standing behind him trying to learn the game and keep your skills fine-tuned. And I think that's something that a lot of fans, and most of us, we're not there. We're not at training camp. We don't have a great feel for until you really spend time with these players and learn just how challenging that can be.
Yeah, I mean, one of the other interesting aspects is that the league had played a successful year. You have these players and agents talking to other players and being like, hey, it went really well. I'm sure there was a lot of players that would have played in the XFL, but were potentially just waiting to see what happens on the sidelines too.
Yeah, and the guys that we've talked to have absolutely loved the experience. Some of them have multiple spring league experiences going back the last few years, but the way the players were treated, the efficiency of the entire situation, the professionalism, the communication, they were all, I don't want to say blown away or surprised, because that should be the expectation, but reality doesn't always work that way. And so, I'm not a player. I'm not sitting there in Arlington day after day, so I can only take their word for it. But everybody's been really impressed by the way the league has operated over the course of the season. And they deserve a lot of credit for that, because that's how you get players either A, to come back, or B, as you mentioned, agents to sell the league to other players and say, listen, it's going to be a great experience for you. And you get over there, get reps and enjoy playing.
Yeah. So back to your background of, calling baseball and football, how does that compare, like calling a baseball game versus calling like an XFL game? How do you prepare? Isn't it a completely different mindset and a different pacing when you call different sports?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the XFL is certainly different. So I try to pull from all of my experiences, from a football standpoint and an X's and O's standpoint. It's very similar to what I do on SEC Saturday nights with my Southeastern Conference coverage. Cole is one of my partners there, in that the game is the game, and fans really want to learn what's happening. The big benefit is Greg McElroy's got a telestrator and he's got the play call, not just in his ear, but we all hear it. And Greg played the position for a long time. I love that aspect of it. I love that as soon as he gets a play call and they get to the line, it's almost like Madden, right? I can hit X and I can see where all the routes are going. I know what a mesh route is. I know what it's supposed to look like. I know what a sail route is. I know these things. But then I'm a very visual learner. Then when he's able to draw it, then it really clicks with me. And I think there's a lot of fans out there that, maybe they were gamers, maybe they played high school football, maybe they're just casual fans. But once you can see what is going to happen, it gives you an opportunity to focus on it. So that's a cool part of it. And that's no matter what football you're covering, I think that's interesting. But then from a storytelling standpoint, there's so many unique backgrounds and personal stories and personal histories that are so fascinating with these guys who, when you cover the college game, guys are 18 to 22 years old. They haven't lived a lot of life, right? I mean, there's the exception of somebody who's been through something dramatic in their life or their upbringing. But generally speaking, they're kids. These are grown men. They've had more time to experience the ups and downs, the failures and the celebrations of life. And so that's where real personal stories and personal interest comes from. So it's trying to balance all of that in one presentation with 4 announcers, with another like 8 mics open on the field, getting coordinators and coaches and quarterbacks and wide receivers and linebackers. It's a fun joyride, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, listening to guys like AJ Smith making a play, changing the play call right at the line of scrimmage, and then all of a sudden, touchdown. So the experience of watching an XFL game is different than a lot of others. All right, my final question for you. Well, first, you got to go to DC, and you got to witness the beer snake. I mean, that's our thing. Do you think there will be a beer snake in San Antonio? I don't know if it's possible.
It's a great question. We do embrace gambling in the XFL, or sports betting, I suppose how we should phrase it. I'd get pretty good odds that there's a beer snake. Now, that being said, every stadium is different, right? Yep. I mean, it's allowed at Wrigley Field. It's allowed and now encouraged at Audi Field, even though there was some confusion game 1 of the season as to why it wasn't allowed or should it be. So I don't know. The biggest question will be the folks at the Alamo Dome. Is that something that they want in their stadium? I would say yes, encourage it, right? Let's wrap our arms around this and let's celebrate what the league is.
Yeah, and it's a lot of money. Those beer snakes is very expensive.
I did a little bit of research, not Stormy Bonantoni deep, because she went deep into it, but $13 for a domestic beer at Audi Field. That's a lot of $13 beers to get from field level all the way to the top of the seats.
Right. All right. So final question, your prediction. How do you think this game is going to go? Who do you think is going to win it? And what do you think the final scores be? You think we're going to come down to, a close one again?
My heart tells me 30-28 overtime. My head tells me DC's probably a little bit more comfortable than that. And it turns into like a 30-20 final. Gotcha. I just think that their weapons on the offensive side of the ball, and they're so incredibly efficient, that they'll have a real opportunity to put some points on the board.
All right, there you go. Tom Hart, ESPN. Looking forward to your telecast this Saturday, DC Defenders, Arlington Renegades for the XFL Championship. I appreciate you coming on the program.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Look forward to bringing the game Saturday night on ABC.
Are you a fan of the XFL, USFL, and CFL football? Get ready to embrace your inner general manager with NewsHubFantasy.com's fantasy football experience. NewsHubFantasy.com offers you an unparalleled fantasy football platform bringing together fans of the XFL, USFL, and CFL football leagues. Compete in season-long fantasy with leagues up to 6 players. You can create your own for friends, or you can join an existing league. Draft your ideal team with our 7 active roster spots, including a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, flex, tight end, kicker, plus 3 bench spots. Show off your football knowledge and strategy and dominate your league. Our user-friendly interface makes it easy to manage with your team and get the latest news in your XFL or USFL or CFL leagues on the go. Plus, News Hub Fantasy offers mock drafts, pick'em games, and so much more all season long. So don't miss out on the action. Sign up now at newshubfantasy.com and become the ultimate football fantasy manager. At the time of this recording, there are 6 more players that got invited, XFL players that got invited to training camp, bringing the total to 46. The NFL continues to show interest in XFL talent as 6 more players from the league have received training camp invitations. This comes just after 40 players were announced. So basically every day this is happening. So XFL, and we're going to see more clearly after the XFL Championship game on May 13th. So the new invitees were Devin Darrington of the Orlando Guardians. He went to Washington, D.C. Quentin Dormandy, QB from the Buffalo. DeAndre Johnson, linebacker, Houston Roughnecks to Cleveland. Mike Rose, linebacker, St. Louis Battlehawks, Miami. Bryce Thompson, Seattle Sea Dragons to Miami. And then Lakeem Williams, a linebacker, Battlehawks to Washington, D.C. as well. The name in here, Quentin Dormandy, the Orlando Guardians quarterback, was recently named the XFL News Hub Josh Davis Award winner. He completed 138 passes on 205 passes for 1,506 yards, throwing 10 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Really came on late in the season, but then kind of tailed off at the end. Remember, Orlando only won 1 game. And also Devin Darrington, who looked really good. The Guardians, 67 rushing attempts, 294 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He's got a spot, too. So, guys, in the league, the 40 players are as follows at quarterback. Ben, and shout out to Reddit for keeping track of this list. So, QBs, Ben DiNucci went to the Broncos. Jack Cohen got invited. Now, remember, they're not on the team. They just got invited to a little camp. Jack Cohen, Jets and Seahawks. Harrison Frost for the Saints, Steven Montez, 49ers, and Quentin Dormandy for the Bills. Your running backs, Mateo Durant, Battlehawks goes to the Jets, Jaquez Patrick to the Broncos, Devin Darrington, of course, we talked about Commanders. Wide receivers, Hakeem Butler of St. Louis went to the Steelers, Charleston Rambo from Orlando, the Eagles, Darius Shepard, St. Louis, the Lions, Ja'Cour Pearson, Colts, and Falcons. John Trey Kirkland, remember, he was hurt. Now he's got invited to the Giants camp, and Austin Prohl from St. Louis went to the Panthers and Eagles camp. Tight ends, Cam Sutton to the Falcons, Jordan Thomas, that big Orlando Guardians tight end. He's got a shot at the Panthers camp. Offensive line, Alex Millette from Houston goes to the Seahawks. Barry Wesley, Seattle, goes to the Falcons. Donovan West, Panthers. Chiki Oki to the Steelers. Eric Magwood, Bills. Jack Snyder, Dolphins, also to Ravens camp. Cool. Sage Doxtater, the Saints. Mike Minette to the Falcons. Derek Kelly, Panthers. Colin Kelly, the Saints. Defensive line, Freedom Akindulamdum from St. Louis went to the Dolphins and Chiefs camp. Kevin Atkins got invited to the Falcons. C.J. Brewer of the Bucks. Austin Faulio, Seahawks. Matt Gottel, Falcons. Pitta Tupananu got work with the Browns. Jack Helfand, the Saints, and Elmore Lemore for the Jaguars. Linebacker Trent Harris, Broncos camp. DeAndre Johnson, Browns. Mike Rose, Dolphins, and Lakeem Williams for the Commanders. The DB side of things, Luke Barco for the Browns. Lucas Dennis for the Falcons. Antoine Brooks, the Bills. Elijah Griffin for the Titans. Nate Meadows for the Bills. Bryce Thompson for the Dolphins. John Parker Romo, go Hokies, got invited to the Lions camp. And then long snapper Alex Matheson from St. Louis got invited to the Ravens camp. This list will grow after the game is over, and we'll bring you the full list next week on XFL News Hub. XFL co-owners Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Dany Garcia talk about the successful XFL season and teams staying in the hub in 2024. So in a recent interview with ESPN, they brought up their plans for the future. Johnson noted the importance of steady growth, saying, "We went into the XFL season determined and committed to playing the long game. Remember, playing the long game. Everybody was like, why isn't everything perfect right now? They're playing the long game. You want to see steady growth. You want to get feedback from the fans and the audience. You want to see how the game plays on TV and then play the long game. So this was kind of laying the foundation. We also get a little insight in the XFL off season. So, quote, owners Dany Garcia and Dwayne Johnson declared the season a success and began looking ahead for 2024. Of course, they have a season ticket deposit, including yours truly, put in a season ticket deposit for, once again, for the DC Defenders. Garcia said that the league's front office staff will soon take an off-site retreat and many off-season staples, including a series of combines and player showcases, have already been scheduled. So we're going to see some of this stuff over the summer. Hopefully your friends from XFL News Hub will be out there. Now, Garcia acknowledged the mixed quantitative results and the need for further work, but emphasized the importance of storytelling and building the league. She stated, quote, we knew we were going to have the space and the time and the bandwidth to make the best decisions to build a league. It's what is the content? How does the content feel? What are you creating? What is the branding? What is the partnership? What is the real innovation? So they admitted, kind of that the attendance wasn't what they were hoping it would be, but other things exceeded their expectations and some things did not. And attendance was one of them. The XFL, but they got such a late start. The XFL co-owners also highlighted the connection between the NFL and the opportunities it provides players. Johnson expressed the hope that, quote, players felt seen. They felt the real shot to play beyond this season, whether it was in the spring or play in the fall in the NFL. They also revealed some more things about the offseason and what it looks like for 8 teams, including confirming that XFL teams will not move to their home markets in 2024. So if you thought that maybe St. Louis would move to their home market in 2024, that is not happening. It will still be the hub, and there will be no expansion. Clearly, they're just revamping, cleaning up things, and going into season 2. Quote, the league is considering the possibility of hosting winter mini camps in home cities, something that they did in the past, to jumpstart the connection between teams and fans. And they did that in 2020. But a shift to an all-local structure isn't on the immediate horizon, close quote. That was from ESPN. So in summary, the interview with Dwayne Johnson and Dany Garcia reveal their satisfaction with the XFL's progress and their commitment to steady growth. They emphasize the importance of storytelling and partnership, including their collaboration with the NFL. So as it looks, the XFL looks into the future. The co-owners are determined to continue basically improving the league, providing opportunity for players to showcase their talents. That's what it's all about. So we did get some interesting things. I think the winter mini camps is a great idea. It's a way to sell it for your season ticket holders. Also gives a chance to the players to get together before they head to Arlington for the season and be able to be in those home markets. Even if you just have a week long thing, doing press, getting out there and getting more fans interested in getting tickets. I think that is an important thing to do, but we'll see if they do that. But we'll still see a bunch of things on the off season, so stay tuned with XFL News Hub all off season. So the XFL revealed their official list, not the XFL News Hub list. We'll break it down for you right here. So the XFL's All-XFL team. First on offense, quarterback Jordan Ta'amu. I'm all for it. I really thought A.J. McCarron would be the guy. Running back Abram Smith. Wide receivers Deontay Burnett from the Roughnecks. Hakeem Butler from the Battlehawks. Lucky Jackson, DC Defenders. Ja'Cour Pearson, Seattle Sea Dragons. No problem there. Tight end Cody Latimer. No, from the Guardians. No qualms there. On the offensive line, Liam Fornaldi for the DC Defenders, Steven Gonzalez for the Battlehawks, J.R. Jones-Smith for Battlehawks, Colin Kelly, Sea Dragons, Alex Millette, Roughnecks, Mike Penasuski for the Battlehawks. That's your offensive line. Defensive line, Drew Beasley, Brahmas, Davin Bellamy, DC Defenders, Austin Falau for the Sea Dragons, Jack Heflin for the Roughnecks, Devontae Lambert for the Renegades, Kevon Patton, Guardians, Delonte Scott, Brahmas, a lot of good names in there. Linebacking core, some guys. Trent Harris, Houston Roughnecks, Pita Tamapunio for the Vipers, your defensive MVP, by the way. Jordan Williams, San Antonio Brahmas. I mean, those 3 guys right there our players. On the defensive back side, Deontay Anderson for the Vipers, Luke Barco, Brahmas, Eugene Harris for the Roughnecks, Levert Hill for the Battlehawks, and Michael Joseph from Euro America's team, DC Defenders. Kicker, John Parker Romo, who we had also for the Brahmas, Daniel Whelan, DC Defenders, and return specialist Darius Shepard for the St. Louis Battlehawks. In addition, they had other announcements, but that is your All-XFL team presented by, this was the league's head coaches and players, director of player personnel were responsible for voting for the All-XFL team and the league's aforementioned top award. So this was all picked by player, coaches, and team personnel. There you have the All-XFL team. DC Defenders, Jordan Ta'amu was named the 2023 XFL Offensive Player of the Year. So Ta'amu helped lead the DC Defenders to a 9-1 record this season and a berth in the XFL Championship game. All the XFL 2023 XFL awards were voted by each team's respective head coach and or director of player personnel. Ta'amu finished the regular season 143 of 229 passing attempts for 1,894 yards and 14 touchdowns and just 3 interceptions. His interception total was the lowest among XFL quarterbacks with more than 150 passing attempts, while his passing yardage and touchdown totals were ranked both third in the league. Ta'amu was also effective rushing the ball, ranking 7th in the XFL. That's right, 7th in the XFL in rushing, with 298 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns, ranked 2nd in the XFL in total offense at 215.2 yards per game. The DC's offense with Ta'amu at the controls for much of the season ranked number 1 in scoring offense, 29.6 points per game, number 1 in rushing offense, 140.8 yards per game, and number 2 in total offense, 343.2 yards per game in the regular season. Numbers don't lie, my friends. Numbers don't lie. Ta'amu and the DC Defenders were going to take on the Renegades. We all know about the big championship game Saturday, May 13th at the Alamo Dome. I will be there, and it'll be on ABC at 8 p.m. Eastern. So additional to Ta'amu, previously announced award winners of DC Defenders head coach Reggie Barlow for the 2023 XFL Coach of the Year, Battlehawks wide receiver Darius Shepard for Special Teams Player of the Year, Vegas Vipers linebacker Pita Taumapenoyu, I keep getting it wrong, it was the Defensive Player of the Year. And then, of course, we had the All-XFL team announced as well. Also, check out XFL's News Hub's Players of the Year as well. Our list is a little different than the XFL's, but congratulations to Jordan Ta'amu, a guy that played in the USFL, made his way over to the XFL. He wanted to play in front of a crowd. He certainly made a name for himself. He didn't only made a name for himself in the USFL, but certainly did in the XFL this year as well.
All right, so thank you for being here. We wanted to create some items to really accentuate what San Antonio is, what the XFL Championship means to us. So I'm going to start off with the brisket sandwich. We loaded it up on a torta bun, jalapeno coleslaw, crispy tobacco fried onions. Really can't be beat. It's huge, it's massive, it's Texas. Inspiration is Texas. I wanted to showcase Texas, I wanted to showcase San Antonio, and I wanted to showcase what the XFL means to the city of San Antonio. I wanted to bring an over-the-top brisket sandwich to the XFL Championship. Dwayne Johnson, one of his favorite cheat meals is his French toast infused with his Terramont tequila and a little citrus. So I recreated that and added peanut butter and jelly and banana to it. We partnered that with a salted caramel kettle chip. It's sweet, it's salty, you can't stop eating it. This last item, the most colorful item, is the foot-long sausage that we combined with caramelized onions and a habanero bacon jam. Tops off with crumbled Blue Heat Takis chips. Sweet, heat, crunchy, delicious. After looking at it, I'm a little hungry.
Great job, Chef.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ramos come after it. Skied it. Oh, what a beautiful Beautiful punt as it checks up, and they down it at the 10.
Now, look who downed it.
He downed it.
That is as on brand as it gets for Marquette King, the punter. Sky shot, sucked it back into regular field, and then he goes and downs it himself. You gotta be kidding.
Look at where the defenders are for DC. Perez pressured, gets rid of it. They've got it! Ball game still going. Sal Cannella bails him out. What a fantastic play by Luis Perez. Bob Stoops loving it. All right. Where's the hood?
Perez continues to deal. Takes a shot. Has a receiver. Caught. Touchdown Arlington. Brandon Arcanata.
Pressure coming. Flint lets it go in zone. Wow! What an unbelievable grab by LaJuan Whittingham! And he launched it into the stands. 16-yard strike. And Whittingham caught that thing with the eyes in the back of his head.
Good. Now you can say it, Matt. Earlier, you jumped in and
LaJuan Whittingham. That's the catch of the season in the XFL. With what's at stake, Luis Perez put that on his shoulder, and that puts Arlington playing for a championship in the XFL. That is unbelievable.
Third and 11 for DC. Damu has a man over the middle. Chris Blair. Get off me! Chris Blair! No one's gonna get him! An 86-yard touchdown strike. What a response by DC! Second and 4 on the ground. Smith. A huge hole over the left side, showing the burners. Abram Smith, no one's gonna get him. Touchdown, DC defenders. A 62-yard touchdown run to the house. Abram Smith, show him what you got. Silvers surveying and throws, intercepted. Off the carom, it's picked off. And this is going to be a house call. 40 yards, Santos Ramirez. DC's undefeated in part, Luke's, because they've been forcing pick sixes all year. That's their third. Second and 7 from the 30. Back to Smith. That hole opens up, makes a man look silly. Abram Smith, how about it? Another huge run, and he's in the end zone. A 70-yard house call for Abram Smith. Just taking over tonight. Give that man some oxygen. Abram Smith, what a performance. De'Aaron King in at quarterback. Here comes the pressure. King gets away, throwing across his body. End zone. No way! You cannot be serious. I don't even know how he got the throw off. And then I don't know how Briley Moore caught it with a toe down. Man, I love the XFL.
I mean, we're all on the same page pretty much. Right now, I think today we had like a little region, so everybody's kind of getting the giggles out. Everybody's getting their body right, a little bit of the blood flowing. And I know tomorrow that once we lock in, everybody's like dialed in. You got the defense, they're pumping us up. We're pumping them up. And, we'll find out when we get to our first period, which is tempo. And we'll find out whether or not we're locked in and how long it's going to take for us. It takes like maybe some weeks we get out that first tempo period and, we're hitting on all cylinders. That's on both sides of the ball. And then, it might be a day. And then the next day we come out like, all right, let's get it all together right now. So I give it like 1 or 2 days within the week. But right now I know everybody's kind of still getting that blood flowing. And, I'm pretty sure tomorrow's going to be a really good day for us.
I don't know if you realize this, but it's been since 1992 since a professional football team in Washington, D.C. is playing for a league championship. What would it mean kind of to you and the players to bring a championship, a football championship, back to D.C., a city that's been known for a lot of historical football teams and moments over the years?
92. Man, that's a long time. I was born in 98, so I wasn't even born then. So, for us, I think that'd be something we've been looking forward to, something we talked about this whole time, something that was brought on our plate pretty much from Coach Barlow in the middle of the season. So for us to bring it back to DC, I think we'd be excited. I know for us, it would mean a lot to us just because, you said it yourselves, it's been 1992. And then I think for overall, just how much the fans have packed, DC has packed Audi Field. I mean, they deserve it. So for us, that's who we're going out there to play for, playing for one another and play for everybody back in DC.
And Coach, you also had 7 players make All-XFL honors. How gratifying is that for you, and how proud are you of all the work that they put in all season long?
Yeah, I mean, we have some wonderful guys, and just to hear those guys speak about their teammates, and they wouldn't have won those awards if it wasn't for their teammates. It's outstanding to hear. It's always good to see your guys get recognized, what they've done on the field, using their ability, and to have 7 guys. Obviously, that our staff and director player personnel did a good job of strategic picking the right guys, us and our core guys and plays, and they went out and done that. So real excited for them, happy for them. Still believe there was 1 or 2, maybe 3 that should have been on there, but we're happy for our guys that did make it, and hopefully they'll continue to play the way they've been playing.
Coach, Caroline Mikowskis from the Lexington Herald-Leader. Would you be able to speak a little bit to Lucky Jackson's presence on this team, both on and off the field?
Yeah, when I heard Lexington, that's the first thing I thought about was we got a player from there. So Lucky has been great to coach. He has great spirit every day. He works hard every day. I remember when it was cold, when we first started, he'd be the only receiver that's out there with no sleeves. And I'm like, man, where's this guy from? I had to look up, where's he from? So he must be used to the cold. But just a tough guy, extremely smart, plays the game really fast, picks up on the offense, the way he's been doing. So just a solid player, a team guy. He's asked to be on special teams. He's contributed on special teams and really have done a good job for us on special teams. So definitely happy to have Lucky. He's a solid football player.
All right, we are back, and we are here with Finn the dog, his final appearance. What's up, pup? How you doing? You excited about the championship game? You think your DC Defenders are going to take it all? He's excited. You can see Finn the dog is very excited, and he just wanted to make an appearance and say hello to everybody who didn't get to see him all season long. So thanks for stopping by. All right, that was a special guest. Finn the dog right there. All right, let's get to our preview of the XFL Championship game. You heard from all the coaches and players, and now it's time. Let's take a look at the injury update before we get into the preview of the game. Here's the interesting one for me. So for the Arlington Renegades, basically everybody, Shakur Brown placed on IR, so he's out. Rennell Hall, foot, he did not practice. This was on Tuesday. Victor Bolden, full practice. Leedy Brown, also full practice. Buimini Rotimi, Devon Smith, and Tyler Vaughns, all a full go. Victor Bolden, I've told you this before, people. Remember, the USFL Championship MVP is playing in another championship game, and we've not really got to see Victor Bolden full going, but he is ready to rock and roll. I think he'll be a big part of their offense. That's why they brought him in. For the DC Defenders, they're a little banged up. Notice on this list is not Jordan Tamu. That is a good thing. Juwan Neal is limited in practice, a good corner on their team. Abram Smith is full to go. DJ Swearinger is full to go. KJ Sales, their hype man, is limited. Joe Wallace, defensive tackle, is full practice. Contrell Bryce. Michael Joseph was limited. He is a definitely player, one of their top corners in the league. Anthony Kelly, a hamstring was limited. Ethan Wolf, one of their main tight ends all season, limited. Jazz Ferguson, a veteran guy, he is limited. And Andre Mintz was also limited. So something to keep an eye on the DC Defenders on their injury report. Victor Bolden looks good to go. So we're excited. That could be, I always said, that could be an X factor there. So also my preview, my prediction on the game. Arlington Renegades, DC Defenders, Saturday, May 13th at 8 p.m. at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas. Yours truly will be there. Game is on ABC, ESPN Plus, ESPN Extra. I got 26, Arlington Renegades 26, DC Defenders 32. I hope it's close. That would be a lot of fun. I just think DC has it. But hey, the fact that their game was close got me excited because we don't know what is going to happen when it comes to this game. It's going to be a lot of fun to check out. All right, quickly on to the betting side of things. Of course, you got to have your little DraftKings just for fun. I mean, why not? Why not a little DraftKings? We got our DraftKings lineup. I've got Jordan Ta'amu, Lucky Jackson, Devon Smith, Chris Blair, Tyler Vaughns, Victor Bolden Jr. His salary is only $1,000. I am high on him, so I have him down low. If he doesn't make it, Brian Herrien might be a guy I would put in. But keep an eye on that lineup stuff on Friday. Stay tuned to XFL News Hub and see if there's any changes. But this one you're going to have to check before the game to make sure. But I'm high on Victor Bolden. We'll see how he does in that game. So that is my lineup. I've won once this whole season when it came to this stuff because it's very hard to pick, just because of the lineup, just the way, it's only 8-team league, so, consistency. But now we kind of know who the guys are. As far as the picks go, I'm going to pick all three just for fun. The DC Defenders are favored to win by 6.5. I'm going to go with the DC. I'll take the DC Defenders with the spread. I will definitely, the over-under is 48. I probably would go with the over, and then I'll go with the money line on that as well. So you're basically your $5 bet on the parlay. I'm not sure. You can't parlay these picks. But those are my three picks for the game. That's on DraftKings on DraftKings Sportsbook. What else do they have? Oh, spread in the first half. On the first half of the game, they have 3.5. So I would definitely take some of these picks. I think the DC Defenders will be ahead by 3.5 in the first half. I don't have a problem with that. Is the total going to be over or under 23? I think it'll be under 23. I think DC will be up on that. So you put a $1 bet on there. They all kind of pay out a little bit. You can't parlay these things because it's a single game. So I would just, put $1 down there. And those are kind of my picks. Just taking a look at that. That's all kind of the betting stuff that they have for the game. Not much going on there. So you got your bets. You've got previews. You heard from coaches. You heard from ESPN's Tom Hart. We appreciate him. And that's about it. Oh, and then you also get a little taste of San Antonio. I asked if they had gluten-free food, by the way. Just want to point that out. So it's an exciting weekend. I'm going to be with my crew. I saw on Reddit that there was a tailgate going on. I think it was something Section B or something like that. So follow us on Twitter and all social media stuff. We'll be out and about. I'm not flying in until later on basically Saturday afternoon. Got a lot of family stuff. Kids going off to college, and it's their final proms. We got to take pictures. And they were just so we stayed in, and then we'll fly out on Saturday and then fly home on Sunday. So a quick trip into see the festivities. It's going to be a lot of fun. I wish I was there Friday, but hey, family first, right? So we'll be out there and about. So stay tuned on all that. And again, have a lot of fun. Okay. my friends. And then we'll be back with a full recap next week, next Thursday, to kind of wrap up the season. So remember, if you want to be part of the show, I'd love to hear your feedback after the game. Email me, podcast at XFL News Hub, with your thoughts of the game, record an MP3, or 888-430-7692, extension 3. Also, be a pal and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So definitely do that, because we'd love to hear from you after the game is over. All right, my friends, lots of stuff to go over this week. Enjoy the game. We made it all the way to the championship game. There's a lot of excitement already building for the XFL in 2024. We will give it to you all there. We have fantasy football. We've got more stuff coming down the pike. And as this playing the long game, we too at XFL News Hub are playing the long game as well. All right, my friends, enjoy the games. Hey, safe travels if you're heading out to San Antonio, and be safe. We'll see you out there. God bless, and I will see you all later. That's it.